Are we all set, Pat?
Just one more second. It's just loading.
Oh, okay, I can't see you anymore, so I won't be able to see your thumbs up.
Yeah, oh, okay. I'll give you a verbal one. It's just taking its time. All right. I believe we are live now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Northborough Planning Board meeting of January 20th, 2026. We are fully remote tonight. If you're following along on YouTube and would like to log in, there is a link to be able to log in on the agenda on the town website. We're going to go a little bit out of order tonight. We have Mike Levitt here from Ledgebrook Common Drive. And on the agenda, we have a site plan endorsement. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Lori, do you want to explain it or do you want Mike to explain what we're doing here tonight?
I can explain it and then maybe Mike can just give a little bit of an update as to where things stand today. So essentially, Mike purchased the property in August of this year, and he has been working on the construction of the common driveway since I believe in October, early October is probably when you broke ground. And so as part of the site plan approval and just as part of the process, he has to create homeowners association documents, and he has to have those recorded at the Registry of Deeds. He also has to create easement documents because the homeowners association is going to be charged with long-term maintenance of the common driveway as well as the stormwater management features. So, of course, this project, the decision was rendered in November of 2014, and then it sat for many, many, many years until Mike purchased it. So during that period of time, the town adopted the new stormwater management bylaw, which is under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. So this project triggered that bylaw because it involved the alteration of greater than 1 acre of land. So he had to make modifications to the stormwater management layout as part of that permitting process. So now he is looking to have the site plan recorded at the Registry of Deeds so that he can make reference to the site plan in the various homeowners association documents and the easements. So because this is an update of the 2014 plan, I need you folks to make a motion to endorse it. And then the Mylars are sitting in my office, and I'm going to need a majority of you folks to come in and sign the Mylar so that then he can record the document. And Mike, I don't know if you want to give an update yeah, after questions about where things stand as far as construction is concerned. I'm sorry, Millie.
I assumed it was looked over by the town engineer.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the conservation, this is pretty much the same plan that the Conservation Commission already approved.
Yeah.
So I did have Vinny look it over and he's fine with it. And then I compared this plan to the 2014 plan to make
Mhm.
sure that um, the width of the common driveways were the same, essentially the construction, you know, the depth of gravel versus binder versus top course was the same. There was one notable difference in the grade. And so the pitch of a small section of the common driveway went from 5% to 5.5%, which is still compliant with our regulations. So I just wanted to note that change. The plan does, in addition to having different information for stormwater, it also has an erosion control plan that is greater in detail than what was on the original 2014 plan, but that, in my opinion, is a big improvement.
Okay. Mike, do you have anything to add?
Well, I guess I think Lori did a wonderful job explaining it. The biggest change, what triggered the conservation was, don't quote me, but I think it went from a half inch of rain to 2 inches that it needed to be able to handle. So that was the bulk of it. And we would really just hope to get an original so that we can record it and do everything by the book. As far as updating on where we're at, we completed the land clearing. We began road construction. We were missing one drainage structure, which we're hoping to get soon, but I'd say 95% of the drainage is done and in place, and we have the road subgraded with gravel that we made on site with some of the ledge, hence the name Ledge Brook. So overall, project's going well. We're hoping to file for building permits soon, and seems to be a lot of excitement about the project, and we're happy it's going smooth.
Thanks. Do any board members have any questions?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. And I think, like you said, Lori, that Vinny reviewed it and it was Concom who made the changes. So there's really no changes for the planning board side.
Correct. So
Right, yep.
the layout of the common driveway is the same, the width is the same, and the construction standards are the same.
Okay. Sounds good. If no one has any questions, do I hear a motion? I don't have them up. Lori had sent it. I mean, I can make a motion, but I know she sent them out.
I can
If
read it if you
anyone
want,
has them.
Amy.
I make a motion to
Sure.
I got it
endorse.
up.
You got, I got
Go
it.
ahead, go ahead, Anthony.
I make a motion to endorse a plan entitled Site Plan Common Driveway off Newton Street in Northborough, Mass, dated July 18th, 2014, last revised August 15th, 2025, prepared by Cornerstone Engineering, 10 Southwest Cutoff, Suite 7 in Northborough.
So
Second,
moved.
Okay, roll call vote. Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
Carter Brennan,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
Aye.
and Bill Pierce,
aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, so you're all set.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
You
Good
too.
night.
Bye-bye.
Millie, you still say Lori. I almost called it when I was doing the roll call vote. I was reading it.
I just saw that.
I'm like, wait, that's not Lori.
Still, Lori. Got it.
Okay, second on the agenda, we're gonna go with the Ignatius Common Drive Agreement. It doesn't look like there's anyone in the audience for that. So I'm just gonna pull it up really fast because, or I can just tell you, I noticed something, Lori, today, just a minor. Of course, now I just closed it. It was like the fourth whereas,
1, 2.
let's see,
Decision.
maybe fifth. 1, 2, 3. The 108, 948 has a period instead of a comma. So-
Not in mine. Oh,
At least
yeah.
on the one I,
It's the last one. It says 108.948. So that's
dollars.
one.
Oh,
And I don't know if that would throw anything off. So
oh, because I don't have the sense, is that what you're saying?
No,
Well, no, it's not
108,
108,000. It says $108.
it's the
Oh.
last whereas.
The,
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. All right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a big
that'd be a
difference.
good deal for $108.
Mhm.
And I'll add the cents wherever I have the number too, because I noticed in two places I didn't have the cents. And
Right,
in another place I did
you
put the
do.
cents. So I will
Okay.
make that consistent. Thank you.
Now, was this something that town council reviewed?
Yeah, so what I asked town council to give me a standard form that I could use for whenever there's a common driveway in this circumstance. So he provided the language, and all I had to do is fill in the project specific language. So I didn't send that back to him because it's just, I put in the name of the project, the property owners, the dates, the amount, and that's pretty much it.
So changing the date shouldn't be a big deal. Did they already sign it? Someone signed
They,
it.
so they signed it, but they haven't given me the original yet. So he's supposed to drop that off today. So once I get the original, I will let you guys know that it's in my office and ready for your signature. Because in order to record it, we need to have all original signatures.
Okay.
Will you have to reprint it with the proper numbers?
I'll just change the front page and I'll notify him of the change.
Yeah, I know like with legal documents, you have to have them initial it. Or else like if you changed it after the fact, usually you have to initial it to approve it.
I can
But-
ask him what he wants to do.
Okay, yep. And you can ask town council,
'Cause
just to make sure
it's
that it's
just
a
a
valid
typo.
document.
It's just a
Right.
typo because everywhere else it says $108,948. So
Yeah, it does.
it doesn't
And he already
change the
paid you the
intent.
money?
We already have the money in hand. It's already been deposited.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any other questions with the agreement? Anthony, do you still have the motions? Was there a motion for that?
There was.
Anthony, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
I make a motion to approve the performance agreement by deposit of money for Ignatius Common Drive for the property located at 85 and 95 West Street in Northborough, Mass.
Second,
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
Carter Brannon,
Aye.
Billy Milton,
I,
Bill Pierce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that is a unanimous vote. Next on the agenda, we'll start at the top to the potential zoning bylaw and municipal code amendments for annual town meeting. I was gonna start with the OSRD bylaw because we left off there.
mhm.
But tonight I was hoping to keep it short because we did spend a lot of time on it. I was thinking maybe, Carter, you can explain your email and your documents that you sent out. And then maybe we'll take board member comments. And then maybe a vote
Okay.
on whether
I
we push
also
it forward or
didn't
not.
send it out, but I also had a PowerPoint presentation that I was trying to kind of just show each change separately, to make it, I guess, more clear what it is rather than the whole document of changes. If people want to see that, or
Sure, it's not too long?
I don't think it should be too long. It's just, I think it makes it easier to see, I think, things than trying to talk about everything all at once.
Sure.
But yeah, if we remember, so I had made, so the like Excel sheet that I sent out, that was my attempt to kind of just list off basically all of the changes that we had talked about, and then some of the ones, so I don't have it pulled up with me right now, but the changes were, I kind of tried to list of like, is this changes that, you know, could be done at the Springtown meeting if we wanted to? Is this something that we, you know, theoretically need a couple months to talk about, or if it's a long-term thing that we may or may not have ready for next year if we were to discuss it. And then my understanding of kind of if we had a consensus or not on whether it was something the board was interested in. But if I can share my screen, and I hope I know how to do this. Is there a way I can play?
I might shut off my screen. It keeps freezing. I can see
Can we
Millie
see
is
it now?
frozen and maybe even Lori.
Oh, no, was I frozen?
I'm here.
I see it.
Yeah, but it might be
Okay.
me. Lori
right.
looks frozen to me too.
Who does? I'm moving. Can you see it?
Is it Lori?
I'm all set. I'm here.
Is she frozen
Okay.
for you guys?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay,
Okay.
it must be my computer.
All right. Do we see the slides moving? Are we
yes.
Yeah.
is it working? Okay. So I mean, I have this slide just in case. You know, I think most of us understand what the OSRD is. I think we've had some explanation. Are there any questions? It's you know, I mean, it's basically the difference is whether a conventional subdivision where the entire property that's being developed is carved into house lots that taking up the entire space. The OSRD allows those house lots or houses to be clustered together, so you then would have a large space that is protected as open space. Do we all kind of understand that? We've talked about it for a few weeks. Are there additional questions with that, or?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a question on that because the conventional subdivision doesn't allow for multi-families, whereas the OSRD seems like it does.
Well,
Because I
yes,
know,
although under our inclusionary housing bylaw, that bylaw allows for different types of housing. So like it does allow duplexes as part of the affordable component as well as the density bonus. So that would still be allowed under an open space residential design too today.
Right, but it wouldn't be allowed under the conventional subdivision.
It would be if it's if it's a project that triggers inclusionary, then you would be able to do it under a conventional design as well.
To a
another
certain percent.
Sorry, I think that's a discussion that I need to delve into a bit more. Maybe not tonight, but understand that.
I also wasn't sure. I know in some districts, like duplexes are allowed by a special permit. Would those be allowed in a subdivision, or would you,
Sure.
unless you'd have to get the special permit for it? But
Yep. Yeah, so it would just be an extra level of approval, but they would be allowed. They just have to be on separate lots. So it couldn't be like a condominium type situation if it was in a conventional subdivision.
and so what I'm asking the board to consider is kind of, I think most of us are on board with updating the bylaw, just we're not sure if we're ready to do it this year So I'm asking for kind of a two-phase one where we approve some changes this year, some which will be more or less expanding it to residential C, making a couple like necessary updates to make it make sense for RC, notably the sewer connections and a few other things that because of the particulars of RC. And then also increasing public awareness. That's both something trying to get this board to do, but also if some updates to this are on the town meeting warrant this year, that will get a lot more attention of the public to be aware that over the next year, the board is working towards additional changes. It might be on people's radar. We might get more public input on what they think about this if it's being presented later. But then other changes that I know the board is not comfortable with right now would not be suggested for the spring. That could be next year or even later if it takes longer to discuss that. You know, why I want to do these early. As I've said, there are several large tracts of open space in RC that I don't think should be completely developed. Right now, a developer could get approval for a subdivision on these properties, or at least some of these properties, within months. So they could be developed or not. I think it'd be better if they're developed as an OSRD, at least for some of these large tracts of open space. It gives us kind of some option to, if somebody wanted to develop on this open space, we can say, hey, why don't you do it like this? It lets more of that open space be be protected instead of developed, without costing the town money. You know, the other option to like stop a subdivision would be like the town buying the land, potentially using eminent domain. I don't think anyone wants the town to be getting involved with stuff like that. This is a better option. If we wait to expand it to RC, my worry is that one of these large tracts of open space might be developed, and we will regret waiting because we wish we had that option to protect some of the open space. So I'm trying to kind of avoid us regretting not approving it now in case something gets developed soon. And again, under the proposed one, the OSRDs will require a special permit. So if we're not comfortable with how an applicant is using it, if we can deny the application, it is within our jurisdiction to deny a permit if we don't think it aligns with the purpose of the bylaw. So the updates to the applicability section, which I have, I have two kind of suggested options just in case we wanted to decide one or the other. But what I'm suggesting is just adding residential C to it and that first sentence right there. And then because residential C allows for kind of, you know, two single family homes is not a whole lot of area in residential C. So one option that was suggested, we have a minimum area of, say, it has to be on 5 acres, or you know, increase it to being like it needs 2 acres of open space or however much we want. So it's not necessarily the whole development size, it's just the open space that you need a minimum for. The other one, I think allowing the 2 family dwellings, I know people are a little bit uncomfortable with that, but because they're allowed by special permit in RC, to me, it wouldn't make sense to say we can't have them in an OSRD in residential C. Again, the OSRD is also a special permit use. If we wanted to put some, you know, rewording in there to say you know, you can only have the duplexes in RC, we could amend it a little bit. But to me, it makes sense to allow it by a special permit. allowing cottage dwellings, because the OSRD allows the kind of condominium with the single family homes, I don't really think I'm not sure it really would make a difference whether we allow cottage dwellings or not. They're just smaller single family homes that would function the same way as you can already do it in the OSRD. If we wanted to allow the attached single family, we can. If you guys aren't comfortable with that, I'm fine not doing that for spring. And then the kind of distinction between outdoor versus indoor amenities, that was something I was talking about, but it's not particularly urgent to do this year like the change to the RC is. The updates to the dimensional regulations, some of them are like necessary if we were doing it to RC by just like adding the residential C, dimensional requirements to it. Lori had prepared a new rewrite of the dimensional requirements that make it more specific. So those are, my understanding, those are ready right now, but if we don't want to change it right now and wait till next year, it's up to the board. I guess, is there any questions about, not kind of, we don't need to kind of debate whether we want it or not, but are there any questions? Do we understand, I guess, what those proposals all are right now?
My video because I find everything's freezing. But I mean, to me, those lot areas are so small. Like right now in RA, the lot size is 80,000 square feet for a single family home. And with this bylaw, we're saying you can do 5,000 square feet. To me, that's a huge change, and we haven't done any impact analysis on what would happen there.
Well, remember, it's
And what-
density neutral, so you'd still end up with the same number of units in the end. It would just allow you to protect a lot of open space.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be the same. Like when Market Basket went in, their development had to do an impact analysis, and these are major changes to push forward without doing any sort of impact analysis. This is changing the lot size in like all of our districts from 80,000, 40,000, and 20,000 to 5. And when I was reviewing the state model, it went from 80,000 to 20,000. So like ours is way smaller than the model. I have a lot of concerns with that.
Well, it can also, I mean, this is the proposal. You could just go back to the yield plan. So if you don't want to make this modification right now, then just keep the bylaw as is. I am concerned that you're not going to be able to get, so this is a mathematical equation. So, we might have to adjust it a little bit to allow the 50% open space set aside versus what's in this bylaw, which is 35%.
Also, I mean, in terms of the like, this is the current bylaw doesn't even have like minimum. It's just says we can waive or reduce it to the kind of planning board discretion.
Yes.
So,
But when I read that, I thought we are waiving it a little bit to make them fit more upfront. I didn't think when the developer reads this, they'll say, oh, okay, I can go to 5,000. That's what I'm going to go for. Like,
well,
but if they didn't have anything there, they can say, well, it's 80,000 now. Maybe I'll ask for 60,000. It's a big jump to go from 80 to 5.
Well, it also depends on where you are, because if you're in RA, then you got to remember that the septic system requirements for the Board of Health are, if it's a 3-bedroom house, it has to be 40,000 square feet of area. So you're not going to get the relief if you're not on sewer, unless, of course, you do a package sewer treatment plant, which is an option. They could do that, and then they can get smaller minimum lot sizes. But like I said, I mean, if you're not comfortable going 5,000 square feet, then make it something else. I mean, that's all part of the discussion. It could be 10,000 square feet, could be 15,000 square feet. You know, what size do you feel more comfortable with?
I think Bill has
Right
a
now, I
question.
think, yeah, for right now, though, if you're asking that question, like, I think we haven't done any analysis to see what the town is comfortable with and what the impacts on the school and everything else would be. So,
There are
but,
no,
Bill has this-
the number of houses is exactly the same.
I-
There is no change in impact under a conventional subdivision and an OSRD. It is identical. If the current zoning allows 5 houses in a conventional subdivision, you have 5 houses in an OSRD. That doesn't change.
the OSRD doesn't take into account topology. But you and I can go back and forth on that. I just want to hear from Bill.
Yeah, let's hold off on the topology. That's not even we're not even there yet. I do want to say that, and this is from personal experience, right? I actually lived, or we actually started our family in one of these type of units. It's out in Marlboro. It's called Williamsburg Heights.
Mm.
And so there are pros and cons to these, and I just want to make sure everyone's aware of, what they are, right? So, the pros are we actually had a basketball court and 2 playgrounds
Mhm.
that when my kids were really young, we were able to use just by walking to them, right?
Right.
You're not going to find that anywhere else, right? So that was nice to have. I will say that, one of the drawbacks to this, and it's actually listed in E, um, is, the houses have to be at least 20 feet apart. That's about the distance between each of the individual units that we had. And that's very tight, especially when you have a family, a young family.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody much older next door, right? But, I personally, I think, it's good to have the option. I do like the option that we have to be able to deny them if, for some reason we don't read it correctly. But, one of the things that I think we need to understand, right, is this the difference between conventional and um and this? Does it, are they allowed to say, well, I'm going to level the mountain and therefore I'm going to be able to use all the acres for my number of units that I can put into this? Are they allowed to say that or no? Right? Are they allowed to say I'm going to fill in the wetlands and then use that as acreage for
No.
this OSRD?
No, so it has to take into account, for example, our wetland requirements. So they have to do the yield plan. So if you think about it, right now, we have projects that are, the lots are created through A&R, and we also have the lots that are created by definitive subdivision. So if you think about Ledge Brook Common Drive, so that was a project where the lots were the funkiest shaped imaginable. And what they did is they had to demonstrate that they could fit a certain number of lots in there. So they carved that mountainside into 8 lots.
Mhm.
And they went before the planning board and they got approval for those lots. And then they did common driveways to provide access to those lots. So huge amount of ledge, super steep slopes. They got that approved as an A&R.
Right.
So in this circumstance, we would know, okay, 8 lots is what you've got. That is how you have demonstrated your yield plan. And so through that exercise, had to make sure that all of the lots were compliant. At that time, we didn't have the lot shape factor, so they're super, super funky. So it would be the same exact exercise. So they would have to demonstrate that they could actually create these lots
Right.
through the preliminary plan process. So now we have the shape lot factor, so it would have to demonstrate compliance with the shape lot.
Okay.
So that is how we come up with, like in this case, if he decided that Mike Levitt decided that he wanted to do an OSRD, we would start with the A&R plan. That's the 8 lots he got approved for. And then under the OSRD, 8 is the number. He couldn't do more than 8.
Right.
Actually, now there's a density bonus, so he could do more than 8. And he would just put those 8 lots on the most buildable portion of the site, leaving the remainder of the site as permanently protected open space.
But
So I
that, but
know
Lori,
because
but Lori, that's my point,
Yes.
right? He was allowed to blow up that ledge, right? To be able to use those as lot numbers. That's where I have a concern. What I would want is if he can't blow up that ledge, what is the actual number of lots he could do on that property, right? If it's 5 because he has to blow up ledge to get the other 3, then I think for the OSRD, it should be 5, not 8.
well, no, but he's building 8 homes.
Right, but he had to blow up ledge to do it.
Yeah, but that's
But
so
that's my
he
concern.
went the conventional route. He went the conventional route and still got 8 lots.
But
So it wouldn't be different here. He'd still get 8 lots, but instead of blowing off the mountain, he would put the lots where it's most developable and then have the balance of the land as permanently protected open space. So there were trails all up there
right,
that were destroyed in order to build these homes.
right. But that's not my point. My point is that we we have said no, we don't want you to, the whole point of this is to create open space. I get that. But creating open space at the detriment of adding additional housing is not going to go over well in this town. I'm sorry, it's just not. That's what the
Uh,
people have said,
I
right?
don't understand your point.
My
He
point
would
is
build
that
eight homes. He would build 8 homes under both scenarios. It's just that there would be less disturbance to the land under the OSRD than there would be under a conventional layout.
agreed,
So
unless he
the
was,
OSRD protects the land better than the conventional layout.
but it also allows him to be able to build at a smaller cost because he didn't have to blow up the land. So we're giving them the option to build 8 houses now, right? If he went the OSRD, he wouldn't have to blow up the land, which is less cost to him, which means you're going to bring in more development
No,
because
No.
the costs are now less to build in Northborough. That's
he's
my
building,
concern.
he's building regardless. He's
But
building
he
regardless.
would have done it for less money because he didn't have to blow up the ledge.
But one of the things that you guys have been talking about is you want more family style housing. Because of the huge costs of development, he has to build mansions because that's the only way he can recoup his development costs. All of the good land that's available has already been built on.
Right.
So the land that's remaining is the super difficult land. If the costs were less, then he wouldn't necessarily have to build the $2 million mansions. He could build something more affordable for people.
But he can
Maybe
build
instead
more
he
of them.
build 750,000 square foot.
But he can build more of them. That's what we're
No,
trying to.
But we have,
no, you still are building the same number of homes. 8 under the conventional, 8 under the OSRD.
Well,
Okay.
that's my concern.
Right. I have the same concern. There are a lot of unbuildable lots that will all of a sudden be buildable. But I see,
But
Millie, you have your
you
hand up.
see that this bylaw
We
has
hear
been
you,
on the
Lori.
books.
I just want to hear from Millie right now. We understand.
I have a quick question
Really?
because going back to we're asking that basically just adding these into our already existing residential A and B open space, correct?
So
We're asking
yes,
to add residential C with these changes, and these changes apply to the entire open space residential design, correct?
yes.
Okay, so in the current residential open space and design, it requires that the developer go through a planned residential development district approval. Is that not correct?
No, there are two
No.
different bylaws. Two different bylaws. You're looking at the other one.
Which one am I looking at? I'm looking at residential open space planning overlay
Yeah,
district.
Yeah, that's the
that's the
overlay
other one.
district. That's not what we're talking about.
We're
Okay,
talking about the special regulation open space residential design.
that's
I
confusing.
think if there was like one or two properties, we would have better luck with an overlay like that one versus changing it for the whole town. I even
So,
looked at
okay.
Millbury, Lori, and there was more criteria in some of Millbury's than there were in Northborough.
If I can I ask can we focus? I'm trying to kind of go through each change one at a time. So can we finish with, is it okay if we finish up with this, the dimensional regulation part of it? I just wanted to point out with this, I mean, again, this is, so these numbers were taken from the downtown neighborhood one. So it's just the minimum that we have in the town. And this is also this section. I mean, currently it's just that the planning board may waive the minimum lot dimensional requirements. This one is just creating specifics of what the absolute minimum could be. And also the bylaw is the planning board may waive the minimum lot dimensional requirement. It is not required to. Do we have any additional questions about the dimensional regulation amendment? There's also a this open space buffer with it, so it's not, you know, we can require an open space buffer. So if there's, the houses are clustered together, it is only the houses being that close together within this neighborhood. It would not be impacting. There would be that buffer around the surrounding homes. Any questions on this one, or
Millie, do you have your hand up?
Oh,
Or is
no,
that
I'm
from
sorry.
before?
do we
Sorry.
understand what this is suggesting?
I understand, but I don't agree with it.
I mean, is it, do you not agree with, I mean, again, we can, I'm fine if we decide we don't want to go through with the dimensional regulations changes, even if we were to move it to RC. But again, is it like, what about the dimensional? Yeah, or we can discuss it later, but I'll go through the rest of them. But yeah, I mean, is it, again, we're just adding numbers to something that already is in the bylaw. We're just adding absolute minimum numbers where currently there are none.
I guess being on the
Right.
board for all these years, the developers will go with the minimum and then they'll point and say, well, you said 5,000 right there. That's what I want to do.
And then the board
So
could
I think
vote
it takes
not
out
to
more
waive
negotiation.
the minimum lot requirements.
Mhm.
If we or I believe, yeah, it's those are the, we can waive them as long as we don't waive them below these minimums. That is what this bylaw says.
We can keep going unless anyone else has anything.
The updates to the definitive plan. Again, These are changing, so it's adding that an appropriate sewer connection, because RC, there's a lot of that has sewer connections. This is saying, unlike an RA and RB, most of that is not sewered, so it requires a privately owned sewage disposal. This one allows connection to the public sewer. Does anybody have an objection to that? And then the other one on this one is that it changes from which site plan rules we're doing. That was something Lori had suggested. If she wants to explain that one, or
Yeah, I was just pointing to, because of course there are already regulations in the definitive plan, subdivision rules and regulations. So I was just pointing to those regulations. So regardless of whether it's a condominium or whether it's a subdivision, they'd have to adhere to the design and construction standards of the definitive subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that says.
does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
Well, updates to the minimum design standards. We're allowing a full waiver of the buffer. Where is that? I can't quite see where that is. I think it's probably on. Oh yeah, or no buffer. Wilson. I mean, again, that's really mostly for if we were like reducing the like the spacing of the houses to like what's the same as right next to it, and it wouldn't require a buffer. It wouldn't make sense to have a buffer. We have that option, but I would say that'd be, yeah, we could use it in some case, but it's just have that option and clarify that's an option. Removing the single family, that's if we allow duplexes in this, you would remove single family. If not, you'd keep it. Or even if we don't, it doesn't change the difference that if it's there or not. And then changing the walkways where appropriate to wherever appropriate. That's kind of just somebody, yeah, put that there. Are there questions on this one? These are all minor changes.
I'm a little confused as to where you're at on the draft amendments.
This is update to the minimum design standards.
Oh, here it is.
Well, I'm not gonna
Okay.
pull them. If you can read which section that is, because I don't want to pull out of this.
What's the R? Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Topography, good. Something about, is this something about view sheds under, back to number 1? What are view sheds? Is that view? I mean, I'm just kind of confused as to, well, we can talk about the details on stuff like that later. I should know what some of it was. Like the diameter at breast height seems like an odd description for the size of a tree removal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean I think if we're gonna review this over the next year, we can. I'm not suggesting changing any parts of that right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we can clean this up. Yeah, if we want to redo it for next year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, yes, so the other big change was we were going to change it from, so currently there's the density bonus. So it's a minimum of 35% open space. And then I think it's every 10% additional, you can add an extra, like an additional house than what's currently allowed under a conventional plan, or whatever you were using to calculate it. The proposal was to make it a minimum of 50% and then get rid of the density bonus. So this makes it density neutral. So the same number of houses that can be built in that plan, in a conventional plan, would be able to be built with an OSRD instead of more houses on the OSRD. I know some of the, I think Billy kind of commented that she thought that would have been the make sense as the incentive. So that's something to keep in mind. And we could revisit it if we were gonna, and discuss whether a density bonus is appropriate or not. If we're redoing this for next year. But right now, the suggestion is get rid of it and increase it to 50%. But if people, I don't think this is the part that people are not happy with, but yeah, if there's any questions on this one.
Model bylaw, when they go as low as the 10,000 square feet from 80, they have a density, they have a open space up to 70%. Like, that's why I think our numbers are just way too low. But I also think there's a lot in this that's too much right now.
Mm.
Well,
I feel like
is
we're
what-
having a lot of heartache with it. I don't think that we're on, like, at least my consensus is this would be tough to bring forward to town meeting right now, because I feel like we just don't have enough analysis at this point. Like, we still have a lot of questions.
I think
lot.
that this board, some members of this board have a lot of questions. I think most people I've spoken to around town think this is pretty straightforward, common sense. That it's again, it's basically just
I
the
don't
same
think we could
number of
answer.
houses.
Yeah.
You're allowing you to arrange a subdivision a little bit differently in a way that protects more open space. If there is something specific that people haven't, again, I understand people would want maybe to take out like specific lots you wanted in. I'm not sure that might kind of be spot zoning, so I don't think that is practical. But yeah.
The other towns I looked at, were single family to single family, just like our original bylaw
That's a
is.
big difference.
They didn't add in all these incentives. There's a lot of incentives here to go to quadplexes, and
What are
and
the
even
incentives?
Millbury only
We're-
went to triplexes and said it had to be maximum 2 bedrooms. I feel like there's a lot here
There isn't,
that
though.
could have
We are not
unintended
increasing,
consequences.
we're not adding multifamily to it. We took that out. We're only adding duplexes because those are allowed in RC anyways, which if you want to take that out, that's fine. And we're potentially allowing cottage dwellings or attached single family if you want to. If you don't, we don't have to add them.
Can you just go back to the, because I don't know that I actually have the updated version. I thought I did. And it does say in the version that I'm looking at, which was sent on 1/16/26, says the residential uses are including cottage dwelling, single family dwelling, 2-family dwelling, attached single family dwelling, up to 4 dwelling units per structure. Is that not in there anymore?
I was expecting that the board would want to remove that, and I'm not asking to push that for the spring.
Okay, because I don't think I have this. I don't have.
Yeah, I
this
think
change.
yeah, it would just be to remove. I mean, this is what I'm suggesting for the use regulations.
Okay,
Yeah, I
that's
don't think.
huge.
So yeah, I'm hearing the feedback that people were uncomfortable with the multifamily, and I'm suggesting I'm kind of saying the
Okay.
duplexes only because they're allowed by special permit in RC. It might not make sense to exclude them. But yeah, the multifamily, I know people were against the multifamily. And if people if people are okay with the detached, sorry, if people are okay with the attached single family, if not, we don't have to include them, which is why I have it listed but crossed out, because we can just cross it out. I think the cottage dwellings make sense, but if people don't want that either, we can take that out too.
So I guess my question becomes then, because we were, it was being described before that change as density neutral and the same number of units, and now it's still being described that way, and that's a huge change density wise. So it's not it.
So the density neutral is the total density, like on average of the whole subdivision. There's two ways of describing the density. There's the density of each building. So it's
Right.
like, but the density neutral is the average of the whole subdivision.
Average number of buildings or
Average number of dwelling units. So if there are 8, if you can build 8 houses on in a conventional subdivision, then you can build 8 units for an OSRD.
So
Okay.
so Millie, that could be 4 structures. So it could be 4 duplex structures and that's it.
Right.
So that would be your 8 units. You don't get anything more than 8.
Right. So I think that was the concern with density being the same with all these changes, that you're still getting the same, you may be getting fewer buildings, but you get the same number of dwelling units in that
Correct.
structure versus, okay, that's a little bit more.
So let's pretend
clear.
it's a 10-acre parcel. You're
Yeah.
allowed 8 units. So instead of having 8 buildings, you have 4 buildings, which would allow you a greater amount of permanently protected open space. So instead of maybe having, 5 acres of open space, maybe you can do 7 acres of open space.
Right, but each one of those units can only have one family unit or one, renter or something like that, correct?
So if you have 4 duplex structures, then you would have 2 families in each structure. So you'd have 2 units per structure
Right, right.
for a total of 8
8
families.
units, 8 dwelling, okay. Okay. That's a lot.
So how would the
I mean, a lot
topology
to wrap your head.
take into account like river crossings? Like I know you say it takes into account wetlands, but when I look at the GIS map, most of the houses stop at the rivers. Like Indian Meadow Golf Course right now does have a lot of, streams and rivers, which you'd want to protect. But we had a developer look at it and he's like, right now, I can only do 5 houses because of the way it is. But I bet if you did this open space residential, you could probably get like 60 houses.
No, because it's still the same regulation. So if you see the yield analysis says that you have to take into account the wetlands regulations. So there's the Rivers Protection Act. So that's 200 feet on either side of a perennial river. The first 100 feet on each side of the river is a no-touch zone. So it doesn't matter whether it's a conventional subdivision or whether it's an OSRD, that is a no-touch zone. Then we also have the wetlands regulations that has a 35-foot no-touch zone adjacent to wetlands. That doesn't change either. It's still the same regardless of which way you go.
Right, but a builder might not decide it's worth it to have to cross all the streams. But if you do the no-touch zone around it, those numbers may come out, but it would give more area because now they don't have to cross the stream. So it's kind of like ledge. It's another impediment that would not be counted.
Well, remember, you are approving the yield plan and you are approving the layout. So if you don't agree that a lot is a buildable lot, then you tell them that you don't agree. So if they're showing 8 lots, but you only think by our regulations it's 6 lots, then you just say, nope, it's 6 lots, it's not 8.
Right. But this has very specific criteria that seems like it would be hard to deny. Like that would be just opening ourselves up for another lawsuit if we see something and we say, you know, we don't really think you could do that lot there. We don't like the layout. Then that could be a lawsuit.
But it's the
It's hard to,
preliminary plan requirements that we have in our subdivision regs.
right. But it's different. It's different when it's,
If we don't like how a developer is trying to use the bylaw, we just deny the special permit.
Yeah, but Carter,
Oh.
it's not that easy because
No.
then they have the right to go to court,
Yeah.
right? And we have to defend our decision in court, right?
You can't
But-
say
So-
because I don't like it.
So
But it's the
let me
same
use
for the
let me
definitive
use-
subdivision too.
yeah, but let me use a different example, okay? Let's stay away from the water because I know the water has specific regulations that, yes, you're not gonna be able to get around those, okay? Let's use the property across from Harvey, right? I know he came up in front of us a couple years ago, right? And he has, and I correct me if I might not have the exact numbers correctly, but he has something like 18 acres there, right? And there were only 8 of them, if I remember correctly, that were actually buildable, right? The rest of it is all ledge and steep hill and everything else. Now, if I'm a developer, right, and I say I'm going to go out and win Powerball, and when I do, I'm going to take out that mountain, and therefore I can build another 30 lots there. Technically, that's feasible, right? And so now he can take those additional 30 units and put them into that little area. That's my concern, right?
I do
People
think
with
that,
enough money can do whatever they want, but now they don't have to use the money. We're letting them say they could use the money and then not actually do it.
Right.
That's my concern.
he could even if he didn't have the money, he could sell it to someone who does.
Well, all he has to
You
do
know,
is say that he has the money. That's all he
Right.
has to do. He doesn't have to prove it, doesn't have to do anything. And there's nothing we can say to say no.
Right.
Can you stop sharing for a minute, Carter, so I
Yeah.
can pull up the Ledgebrook development for a second? I just wanted to show you. So this is the configuration of lots that was approved in 2014 under the A&R process. So you can see what they did is they did all sorts of funky Z and S shapes so that they could figure out where they could put homes on the most buildable portion of the lot. And then septic systems, because of course they had to get perk tests. So look at this configuration of craziness.
Right. I completely agree. However, without
So
removing any ledge, how many houses, how many units could they put on that property without removing any ledge whatsoever?
but that doesn't matter because that's not reality. That is not how A&R lots. Remember, you don't have any right to put any stipulations on the removal of ledge. So he can blast the whole top of the hillside off in order to fit this common driveway and in order to fit his lots.
At an additional cost
So
to
that,
him, right?
We
yeah,
also did a new,
but what, so if he was able to do, so he had to fit 80,000 square foot lots up here. So if he wasn't required to make the lot so large, then he could have aggregated all of those homes on the buildable portion of the site and then left the rest of it alone. So you can see that there are wetlands up here. So there would have been less disturbance for the area around the wetlands. There would have been less disturbance to the ledge. he's moved a lot of earth around in order to balance the site. And he's doing a good job up there, considering that this is a ridiculous site to build. But what I'm saying today is the cost of land today in Northborough, if you are rich enough, you can develop it. You can. But what this
So could have,
requires is you to put very large homes so that you are able to make a profit because of the
he,
cost of development.
he could have used our current, if he
That's,
wanted to, he could
yes,
have used our current open space residential and built the houses closer to the road as
right.
long as they were single family, which is what he's doing now, single family. So if he wanted to,
He
he
could
could
have
have
done
used
that.
the one that we had.
We have that in place there. Why wasn't that done?
Well, this is long before my time. So I
Right.
think the only one who was on the board at the time was Amy. So I guess I'd ask you that question.
It's,
Well, it was
Well, no, I
Kathy who
think,
the,
but I think the point of the
did the,
question is why didn't he, right? Why didn't the developer choose that option,
that's my point.
right?
Mike
Because
said
Not
it
about the board,
wasn't.
it's about the developer.
So
Right.
Mr. Ramadan, I suspect the reason why he went with this configuration is because he could under the A&R approval. And that is the quickest and easiest way to develop a site. So, when you make it a special permit, then you have more hoops that you have to jump through and you may or may not get approval.
he wouldn't be able to do those lots today though, because we fixed that last year. These are the crazy lots. And we used to question that in the day, why are these lots so crazy? And
So
they
we
would
fixed
say, well,
that.
because they can. But, now I didn't know there was such a thing as the, um, the, I forgot what it's called, but whatever we brought forth last year that makes the lot be more of a rectangle shape passed last year. So these crazy lots wouldn't even be allowed today. And now that you're the planner, you'd probably say, why don't you do a planned unit development? I mean,
I
whatever it is,
would,
it's an open
I
space,
would,
right? But back
absolutely.
then, she didn't. So I don't
But
know.
even
I don't
then,
think
I
we can
mean,
use it as an example.
yeah, because we could still say we can do, I mean, there's nothing that say you can't
Mhm.
do the resident open space residential design in residential C.
In residential A.
No, you can't. Right now, you cannot.
Right.
So if one of the golf courses came forward next year,
Yeah.
they would be out of luck. They would be required to do a conventional layout or a Chapter 40B, but then there's no guarantee of approval.
Or like when I started, I was on open space and we were going to buy it with CPC money. Like that's what the CPC money's for, to buy open space
I,
if the town so chooses.
again, I think part of this is that this makes it, we don't need to use the town's money, whether that's CPC or otherwise, and then that money can be used for, fixing the fields at the middle school and all this other stuff we want the CPC money for. But yeah, I mean, if you guys, if it's just the ledges and that's concerning, I mean, could we add a sentence to the yield analysis that says like, the plan must kind of, reasonably follow the topography of the site or something like that?
I
It
did
already says
actually
something like that.
I did add a section about that. Um,
It does say something like that.
yeah, let me find it. Here, so this goes into the site analysis. So it's primary and secondary conservation areas. And it does talk about slopes 15% or greater.
But I think the concern that some people on the board have is with the topography, how it's being used in the preliminary plan for the yield analysis. I don't know if we can modify the yield analysis at all to alleviate those concerns.
Well, you have to fix it in the subdivision regulations.
Yeah.
Because right now, there's nothing in the subdivision regs that says that you can't include land of 15% or greater slopes. So if it's not in the subdivision regs for conventional subdivision, then it's not here in how you generate your yield analysis.
Well, maybe that's where we start.
Right. That's where we were gonna start last year. We said that we were not gonna do housing and we were gonna start updating the subdivision rules and
Subdivision
regs, and
plan.
I would
and that
love
was a year
to.
ago. Yeah.
So far I've spent exactly 5 hours in the last 2 years on updating the subdivision regs because I just don't have time. That's why I keep
Right.
saying if we could just push off like zoning bylaw updates, we've been working on the design guidelines for 2.5 years. Like if we could move some of those other things off my plate, then I'd be able to concentrate on the subdivision regs because they desperately need to be updated.
Yeah,
Maybe that's where we start.
that's, to me, that's, if it's not gonna be consistent with that, then we're pushing this one ahead of that one, but yet this one's never been used, so the idea that this has more urgency and more concern or, priority is a little bit, confusing in that sense.
I think,
Oh,
if I may,
Personally, no, go ahead.
I think we've spent a lot of time on this. I think there's a high level of discomfort. Certainly with me, I'm mostly concerned with unintended consequences and not knowing. Having an impact study would be a great idea. I myself would like to tap the brakes on this for now, and I would move to pass over this bylaw to a later date.
I hear a motion
Second.
to pass over this bylaw till a later date.
You guys
Is there a
don't
sec-
need to take a vote. We haven't even, held the public hearing yet. So we're just
Right, but we-
talking about the things that you want to advance to public hearing. If you don't want to advance this to the public hearing, then it wouldn't be eligible to go on the bylaw, on the
Right.
warrant anyway.
Sounds like that. Is that what you were doing though? I think it sounds like Anthony was saying that he wanted to move it, so. We've talked
It-
about it a lot.
Is it worth advancing just to the public hearing to hear what the feedback could be so that we're not completely blind if we decide to pass over it and then come back in next year with some information?
I think if we're not
I
comfortable
don't
with
know.
it, I don't see how the public is going to be comfortable with it.
And that's my concern is I wouldn't have answers to a lot of the questions that might come up, but we might want to know what the questions could be.
If I may suggest, I don't know what Lori thinks about this, but to me, this is very much, it works very side by side with the subdivision rules and regulations. If we want, do we want to maybe put a lot of focus on both of those, and as we're modifying the two together, kind of look at both of them and say, because again, a lot of it is, this is a preferred alternative to subdivisions. And if we want to, after this town meeting, do a good amount of public outreach and trying to get, members of the public to come to our meetings and talk about what they want to see of how we change subdivisions, whether those are conventional subdivisions or OSRDs, of, having kind of a, not a formal public hearing, but like public outreach meetings after town meeting. Kind of have I do think it would be best if we allow it with a special permit in RC, so we can, in the event that somebody is suggesting a subdivision that we would prefer open space, we can have this as an option that we can offer to them. But otherwise, I'd like to at least have a plan of how we can move forward to kind of update this bylaw for next year.
See how they did Intervale Farm on Route 135. It's in RC. It's over 55, but that has the smaller lots. Because I did a search today on how many lots we had that were 5,700 square feet. And mainly the ones that came up were Intervale Farm and also the other over 55 development off of East Main Street. We really don't have that many. But how did they do it without having this on the bylaws, without having this in the books?
Intervale Farm is a chapter 40B.
How about the other ones on East Main Street? It's like Deacon Street. And
Do you know the name of the development?
It's
Oh,
townhomes. It's the one, isn't it townhomes?
That's a pretty old one, I think from, what is it
I
called?
noticed that too in a lot of towns, like where they have this planned development, and a lot of them are the over 55, but that's what we have in our town right now.
I know the little development off of Hudson, over by 56 Hudson.
Yeah.
That is in the downtown neighborhood.
Yeah,
That I believe was a 40B, but that's considered cottage dwellings. So
Yeah.
I believe those are 5,000 square foot lots.
yeah, they're small.
Yeah, we used to have where they had to do 10% affordable. And that's what that developer did. They created downtown neighborhood for him to be able to put his affordable housing offsite and not with his project. But that was before my time, but I was told that.
Yeah.
That's why they're over there. And that's why they're small. But to me, it seems like there's consensus that we're not ready for this year's town meeting, so.
As a,
So we
Yeah.
can discuss it, what we want to do for next steps. But maybe at the next meeting or the meeting after, because we have so much to get through. Unless someone has an idea, but I don't wanna. I know we have to do the subdivision rules and regs. We always go back to housing and it takes up a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time. And we did
Well,
do a lot
is-
of housing
Recently.
initiatives lately.
Yep.
I know we don't have an answer for you, Carter, how we're gonna go forward, but maybe everybody can think about it, digest everything we heard tonight and see how we want to go forward.
when would a citizens petition need to be finished for a zoning amendment for this year's town meeting?
So the warrant has to be opened and
Okay.
then it would be filed with the town clerk. You need a certain number of signatures. You should ask the town clerk the number. I'm not sure off the top of my head. And then the planning board is required to hold the public hearing on the citizens petition. So, ideally, the turnaround time for the legal notice is a minimum of 3 weeks.
I'm not saying I'm gonna do it for this, I'm just wondering what my
Question?
options are.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I was gonna bring up the data centers. I added it to in a Word document so I could share it. So thank you. The definition seems really good and I was reviewing it. And we did have someone do an AI review of it because I was reading all these documents on data centers and what we have been finding. I talked to Lori about it, but very briefly. We didn't talk about it in detail. But what came up is with the special permit criteria, it recommends more of a quantitative look at it. Like it says required data centers, benchmarks such as power usages. And what I've read online too is like the sound is what's driving towns crazy. I guess there's a lot of sound from the chillers or the
Mhm.
cooling systems on top. So it says it should be so far away from residential, like 1,500 feet minimum
So can I just really
and
quick?
noise. Sure.
So, number one, the water thing, actually, everyone bases their information. So if you go down to your AI items for a second there, number two, that you had the water usage, everyone who mentions about water usage goes back to a single article that has been now taken down. There is no water issue with data centers and cooling. It doesn't use any more water than a single family home because it recycles the water. That's just like how you put an air conditioner in your window, you're not hooking a water hose up to it, right? It recycles everything. So that's how they work. So that item, um, I'm not sure that that's correct. As far as the noise, you can walk down Barefoot Road. There's a data center right at Barefoot Road. You don't hear any additional noise than you do from any other warehouse facility. In fact, I think there's probably less.
Where's the data center there?
Iron Mountain, that
Iron
first
Mountain.
building right in the front is actually a data center. I
Yep.
actually toured it when we were looking for data centers for the MBTA.
Mhm.
And then the chillers, you can look, if you look right over the building, the chillers are in the building behind it. So they're like almost right up on the street. And you really don't hear them.
Okay, I read a lot
As-
and like that was the main complaint.
yeah,
I loved what you did, but I just didn't know if we should put some quantitative numbers with, like it says adequacy of items. So I didn't know if as a board, we would know what to look for as being adequate.
well, and when a data center is being built, one of the things they look at is they look at the infrastructure for electricity, right? That's obviously one of the most important things because they don't want to be running on generators. That's too expensive, right? So they look at electricity. Um, and so, they're not going to build something that's going to be too large for the electrical grid in the area.
Mhm.
And so when they build them, there's actually a set of, and I forget what it is. I actually had it in a chart and I'll have to pull it back up maybe and send it to everybody. But they actually had a chart of, this is a micro data center. This is and they had different names based on the electrical usage. Um, but a lot of that, we would be able to get from the electric company as far as, will this have any effect on the local homes in that area if there are any. That's why I tried to keep it to the industrial areas and not
Mhm.
anywhere near the residential areas. The Iron Mountain one is sort of a one-off because it's technically in a industrial area, but it's so close to the residentials
Mhm.
because it's right up there at the top of the hill where Barefoot meets Whitney.
I know with our hazardous waste, we say they have to be 1,500 feet from a residential. I wonder if you can say hazardous waste and data centers. I mean, that's what I had seen.
Yeah, but again,
And some
there's
of them
no
did
additional
have,
noise. You can walk down Barefoot Road and it's not, you don't get any additional noise walking down that street.
well, it depends on the size or the builder, like I'm sure some people are better at it than others. Because I did read, and maybe they aren't true. I was reading people were like, "Oh my gosh, I live near it, and it's a hum all day long and buzzing." And but
I
it's on the internet, so who knows?
Yeah, I've worked, like I said, when we did the MBTA thing, we evaluated 3 different data centers. I've worked with 2 other at 2 other ones. Um, you
Mhm.
know, outside of the buildings, there's usually not a lot of noise because a lot of times they don't want you to know that there's a data center in there, right?
Right?
Um, they don't want you to know that, this is a site
Mhm.
um, with a lot of computers and major equipment in it. But
I was just quickly looking up our performance standards to see, if it has noise and sound, just in case.
mhm. Yep.
Um, just see what page they're on. Because what we saw a couple towns, they're putting moratoriums on them until they can get the specifics down. So, Lori and I both I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know enough about data centers, and just to make sure we cover all the bases.
Yep.
We were wondering if there should be a moratorium until, if we needed quantitative numbers.
Well, I mean, right now there's no definition. So, I don't know
Right.
that it would even be allowed. I don't know if you'd need to worry about a moratorium if there's no definition.
We could do the definition followed by the moratorium, unless
Um,
unless the board thinks that the criteria is adequate. But I don't know enough about data centers to say, you know, I just heard complaints about sound, and they said you could make the criteria say that it has to be recycled water,
yeah, it's always recycled water.
and some of them are requiring solar panels.
When we were
So,
kind of emailing, talking about, I had suggested was during if we wanted to include some kind of sustainable energy thing. Bill was kind of like, I don't think there's any data center that the technology isn't there to have most data centers run completely on renewable energy. But I think right now we wouldn't need to include that, but I was wondering if moving forward into the future, if we wanted to look into um, some kind of additional requirement or regulation that's encouraging, or some kind of renewable energy thing, maybe not only for data centers but for other industrial uses. But I think that's kind of a separate question than the definition and of the data center we have right now.
Yeah. And maybe it's, I think one of the suggestions we had was possibly putting in something saying that their power supply, right? The supplier should be running it, with a 15% sustainability or something of, sustainable power generation, something along that line. So it's not necessarily the site itself, but they're getting their power from somewhere that's sustainable.
Can you mandate that though, or is it more like we're suggesting it?
I couldn't hear you quite, Anthony.
Are we mandating that or are we suggesting it?
Ah,
I don't know. I guess that would be a question of, can we mandate that?
Yeah, yeah,
We sort of we give that option with the town power that we were looking at before. I think that there was a certain percentage that had to be sustainable energy. I forget what that was, but
and I also think that I liked Amy's idea about putting some numbers around, certainly the noise. Now, granted, Iron Mountain, you may not hear anything, but who knows what technology will be in 5 years and who the next data center may come in. And there's plenty of warehouse space in town where they could convert a building. So just having some protections over noise or, noise control, I think would be important.
And who knows if you don't hear anything at 10 o'clock at night? Just curious.
Standards, I just looked them up quickly, and at least in the book I have, 7-50, it says noise shall not be increased over 5 decibels. I don't know if that's a lot or a little, but maybe if we added, like, for the performance standards, it says you have to do a sound test, like before and after. Maybe as part of the noise, they have to do, you know,
I
an
think we already
original
have that in
sound.
place in industrial.
We added it. We added it to the Bartlett Street decision,
Yeah.
but I think it should be listed here in the special permit criteria, or else we have to remember it. Like,
Oh,
if they
yeah.
come forward, we're like, what was that we wanted to ask them?
Yeah.
Like, for
Yep.
me, the more we can put in the bylaw, the less that we will forget.
Sure.
So, I mean, I'm not saying what to write, but I mean, maybe like what is it called? It says running our, the sound must be measured at the property line.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure we can change 3 to add an actual number in there.
Yeah, I'll just write noise measurement test. I just think, to protect them too, there should be a
Mhm.
test before and after, else we can say, oh, you're louder than you were before, but we don't know what they were before.
Right.
And doing their fully, functioning time, because again, some industries have higher noise levels at different times or different shifts. So, if they have it higher at a time we're not testing, that's not really terribly helpful.
Well, yeah, but a data center pretty much runs the same 24/7, 365. It,
Okay.
it doesn't really have a lot of variability based on.
And I believe that.
Although what I would
don't
say is
know.
maybe I will, yeah, what I will say is maybe we need to also add something with the generators running, right? Because the generators generally don't run unless the power is off,
Right. They
right?
kick in. That's
And
a
so you're
very
going to want to
different
test it,
noise.
right? But I think that would be really the only additional item.
Listing that they have to
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
recycled water, because like it says
Now,
at a,
again,
if we have,
the whole water thing with data centers was based on one article that came out that's now been pulled down. I looked at that
but how
multiple
do we
times
know
and
they're gonna use
because that's how AC
recycled water?
works.
Because it was inaccurate. Is there no other?
They didn't say why they pulled it down. They just pulled it down. So every article you read about water in data centers they all eventually point back to one article that's been pulled down.
But it may have been pulled down for another reason.
No, I think it was pulled down.
Right.
Like I said, you put an AC unit in your window. It's not, you're not plugging in a water line to it. That's how AC works, right? I've got, 4 AC units in my house, right? None of them, and it's, to a condenser outside. It's not plugged into water. It's not gaining any additional water from anywhere.
So maybe it's the initial setup. Who knows? I don't know enough. I'm just asking the
But
questions.
that's,
Right.
yeah, but
I don't know enough either, but I hear it as a big complaint.
Yeah.
right. Everyone complains about it, but then when you look at it, there's actually no additional water supply being drawn.
Well, yeah, but it might be, like I said, the additional setup might be considerable. I don't know.
I mean,
It
I
says
know that the
evaporative
site,
cooling tower. It says evaporative cooling towers use a lot of water.
right,
And
but
that,
then refer back to the, if you look back at the, go back to where they got that information from.
yeah,
Even
I
if,
might do it
yeah,
after this meeting. I didn't have
yeah,
Yeah,
time,
interesting.
but, but, like that says you can use up to 5 million gallons of water per day. I don't know,
yeah,
but I
that's
know
too
they
much.
have a
Right,
lot
and
in,
it may be recycling that,
Virginia.
right? It's recycling 5 million gallons of water per day, but that's using it.
They have some big ones in Virginia, and they're looking to put one, what, in Westfield, Mass?
So
We can
there are
see what
big
they're
ones
doing. I heard there's
in,
one in,
yeah, so there are major data centers in Virginia, Ohio, California, and I know there's two others in the US. And those are,
I think they're in the Carolinas.
no, on the East
No?
Coast is only Virginia and Ohio.
Interesting.
And so what happens is you get these large complexes of data centers.
Yeah.
And different companies call them different things. And I'm going to use the AWS terms. AWS calls the big group a region, right? So they've got the East 1 and the East 2 region. Within each of those regions, they have what's called availability zones. And I know in the East 1, they have 5 availability zones. And so when you put your data in these, like AWS, you put it in multiple data zones. So that way it's spread out amongst multiple data centers. Within each of those availability zones, there's anywhere from 5 to 10 actual data centers that are in those availability zones. So you're talking 50 data centers, right, running these massive areas. And I know there's 5 of them across the country. I know the 2 on the East Coast are, Virginia and Ohio. I think one of the other ones in the West Coast might be Washington or Oregon, somewhere up there.
I read there's one in Marlboro. I was gonna look it up. Like, it didn't mention
There's
Iron Mountain,
there's a
but
couple
it's,
minor ones in Marlboro. Yeah.
yeah. Are they bigger than Iron Mountain?
Yes.
So we could get some information for them, like maybe go by. I might go by, do a little, see if they're loud.
Yeah. You probably wouldn't even know it if you drove by it. Like I said, they try to stay
Yeah,
under the radar because they don't want anyone knowing that there's a bunch of computer
yeah,
equipment there.
Right.
right. Okay. So as long as we decide to agree to go forward with this, whether it's a moratorium, or I think it looks like we can go forward with the definition, and I think by next meeting, we could, if anybody wants to, I know I might go by Marlboro and just see, and I might look at their zoning to see if they had put anything in here. Like, I think you did a great job for sure. But I'm just gonna, what I always do is I go and see what other towns did.
Yeah. No,
Whether
and
they did
that's
it
what I
right
did
or
is I
not, I don't
grabbed
know.
I forget which 5. I know I grabbed Marlboro's and I grabbed a couple
Oh,
others, I think
good.
Boston, to make this. And sort
Oh,
of
good.
combine them all.
Yep. Thank you very much. I think it looks great. I just didn't know because, and yeah, I know AI is not right all the time. It just
I I don't know.
added to.
Maybe maybe this is just me being a little, resistant to change and old fashioned of the members of the board. But I don't know. It's not nothing like against how we've been doing it, but I don't know. The idea of like using AI to write laws is kind of makes me uncomfortable. I don't want the robots deciding
Right.
how we do things.
I totally
So
agree.
I will
So
say what I did was I actually took all 5 definitions and then put all 5 into the AI to see what it would spit out. Right. And then sort of modify. I did have to make some modifications
mhm.
afterwards, but yeah, in all
I
fairness,
just
that's
asked
exactly what I
AI
did.
if there was anything missing. But I know it, I haven't never written a bylaw using AI, but I just used it to see, because I know nothing about how the data centers. But I see, Lori, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just curious why you wanted to put the data center definition in the front of the zoning bylaw instead of in the use section. Because I would think that when people are looking for this definition, they're gonna look in the definitions for the uses. They would go there, they won't go to the front. So
Okay.
that's one
Yeah,
comment
that
that
might
I'd
just be
make.
my mistake. I mean, this is the first one I've ever written, so
Well, I think it is super confusing, not because of you, because of our bylaws. We have some definitions in the front
Yeah.
some in the middle. But I wonder if eventually they should all go in the front. Like I was reading other bylaws and they have all their definitions in the front.
Uh,
I was trying to look up our
personally,
open space. Yeah.
personally, I find it more user-friendly to do it the way we do. Like, I would rather have all of the use definitions in the middle, but all of the other definitions that pertain to, just general definitions
Mm-hmm.
for other things, like this is how you define a lot, and this is how you define a street. This is how you define like a birth or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, those should be in the front.
I looked for our open space definition and it was in 709020. Like that was in the back of the bylaw book. And you had to do like a search to find it.
Yeah.
I think that one should go back to the front.
But yeah, Lori, to your comment, wherever you think it should be, I'm completely fine with that.
Okay. So just so I am understanding for the public hearing notice, would that include putting it as an allowed use in the industrial district? So would you want to modify that section as well? Or are you saying
He
you
wants
just want
to-
to add the definition and not putting anything else in there?
I think we should probably add it to the use category. Now, the question is, Amy, you mentioned a moratorium. Maybe we make it not allowed for right now, right? And we
Mhm.
put the use category and just leave them all no's across the board until we can,
Get a handle on it.
you're right, until everyone's comfortable with it.
Well, I guess if we have it as the special permit, I'm just thinking because like I know like you theoretically you could amend it on the floor to be no, but if we didn't suggest allowing it at all, I don't know if we'd have the option to allow it within the scope of the article. So that way kind of just I don't know if let it be at the public hearing if people have opinions of do we want to allow it or not for now. But
I mean, the whole point was just get the definition in there, right?
I think so.
Even if we're not doing anything with it the first year, we can wait a
Yep.
year.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
I'm fine with that.
Or he puts it in the public hearing notice, we can still, if we don't have a lot of things on the agenda for next meeting, we could still tweak it and maybe we will be ready for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you did do a great job. I just didn't have time to do any research on whether we should have, quantitative numbers or not. And I wanted to hear what the rest of the board thought.
So are we saying, Bill, are you saying that we could just say no across the board for now until we have something better baked?
Right. At least we have the definition in there, right?
Yeah.
And then we put no across the board for the use category. And next year we can come back and say, okay, now we feel more comfortable allowing the use in industrial.
Yeah. I would just hate to lose an opportunity should somebody come to town
Yeah.
and want to build a big data center.
Well, but they could always, could they
Apply for 'em.
go use variance?
Variance with the only option, yeah.
Right. But at least we have the definition there.
Sure.
Yep.
And I think maybe even by next meeting, the special permit criteria will be, fine for town meeting.
Yeah. And we may
Because
want to
maybe
change it again, once after we have our public meeting. Right. If
Yep.
Public meeting, if some people come up and say, no, I'm not comfortable with this yet. Okay. We leave that as an option.
Right. I think we might be ready to allow it by special permit. I'm not sure.
Yep.
I was wondering if CMRPC would have, sometimes when big things come around,
Yep.
they have information on it.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, could you reach out and ask them if they have anything on data centers?
Yep,
Or
I can do
maybe they
that.
don't. But I think this is great because one of the main points is, you know, you need something or else they're just going to go into a warehouse.
Yeah, or build it along some, next to something else, which is how Iron Mountain got around it. Right? They added it as part of their complex. And like I said, you may never know. Right? I
Right.
never knew that there was a data center right down the street from my house until I went to actually tour it.
Yeah. I saw things saying that they should probably be 1,500 feet plus a residential. Would people be okay with that, or you think it's too far? Because the only place I'm thinking is the place that was Steris, you know, if that's still empty, that could be a possible location, but is it too close if it ends up being noisy? Like, say it's not a
Well, again,
reputable
but if we
data
add the
center.
5D, yeah, if we add the 5 dB,
Yeah.
limit, I think that's,
Yep.
5 dBs isn't a lot.
Right.
It's not the
Yeah.
other
No,
thing
just
about the noise thing. And I guess that would fall under the 5 dB is that there's a difference in the noise transference during the full leafed out foliage summer versus the winter. I can hear the trucks on 290 in the winter, but I don't hear them in the summer.
Mhm.
Well, maybe we just, as part of the noise test, we say it has to be the same season or something like that, right? Because you're going to have, in summertime, you're going to have leaves and, full trees and bushes and everything blocking it, where in the wintertime, all that goes away, right? That's why you
Right.
hear a lot of the traffic. So,
Yeah, interesting.
Okay. Laura, does everything fall under that 43B or what, we can ask for a peer review too, if we wanted to. If we're not experts at setting up a data center, we could have a peer
Yeah.
review by an
Yeah.
Do we
Yes,
have to add
absolutely.
that to the special permit criteria?
No, it's already in there. It's already in our planning board rules and
Right.
regs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that could be, a fallback. If one comes in front of us now, we could have a peer review.
Yep.
Okay. Did anybody have anything else? Okay. So here, I don't hear any reservations for it. We're going to add it to this year's town meeting. Special permit in industrial.
you want to
No, in the
leave the
rest of
special
the,
permit in there?
well,
And
we
then
can
we'll see
always
what
change it
people
during the
say.
public hearing if we're not ready.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think this is really good. And if we can do a peer review too, if we needed it. I think it's good. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for doing that. I'm going to share the recent, let's see, warrant articles. I think this is the recent that Lori sent out today. Um, First one had no changes. Second, third, Lori changed, Bob mentioned
Yep.
that
A,
it's
B
not
instead of
ADA
ADA.
anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, it's AB.
Where's that?
Um, Under right here, can you see my mouse?
I do. Required. Oh,
It's
it's
under,
ABDA. Oh, AB.
I think
Just
it's
AB?
AAB. It's AAB, Bob said.
AAB. Okay. Interesting.
We didn't double check it, but he said that's what it's called.
Interesting.
That's the state ADA. ADA is federal. And AAB, the building inspector enforces. It's the state regulation.
Makes sense.
Okay. So the next change came out of our last meeting. We removed private club or fraternal organization. So when this goes to public hearing, that will just be taken out, right, Lori?
Correct. Yeah, so for the public hearing, I'm going to import the information for data centers into this document. And I'm going to get rid of all of the track changes except what changes from the zoning bylaw. So, any updates we've done during the last few months, those will no longer show up. It'll be the final version that would ultimately go to town meeting if the public hearing shows support for these changes.
Okay.
I was just it seems like there's too many very different things happening in one article. I'm sure some people wanted less articles, but I do think if there's opposition to any one piece of this, like people are not necessarily gonna like all of it.
That's always the challenge. And, that's historically been why I've liked to separate the articles out. But of course, when I spoke with Stephanie Bacon, she wanted fewer articles. So my effort was to try and combine them together just to minimize the number of articles. Of course, last year was a tough year, town meeting being so many nights.
I'm just, is it, I don't know, I'm not, I haven't seen this ever done for the zoning articles, but could you do a like a consent warrant? So you have them as separate articles. And then I know we did that during COVID with, I think it was something like the capital projects, where like if somebody objected to it, they'd do a separate vote. But if nobody had any objections, they could just combine all of them. Is that an option or?
I've never seen that done for zoning articles, but I really don't know. I'd have to ask.
That'd be something you ask like the town clerk. So Carter, you're saying they would be separate and then we'd combine them on the floor, or they go together and then you separate them?
I think it would you'd have them separate and then at town meeting. I've only seen this the couple times they did it, a couple years ago for things where they kind of combined things they thought were not controversial, and I know they basically read all of them out. If somebody, I don't know if you needed multiple people to ask them to be removed from it if they wanted separate discussion on them. So you did that, and then you just passed whatever of those and let the ones that got taken out be voted on separately. I would think that's easier than trying to separate them on the floor. And then you go through all this amendments and stuff, and it probably would not save any time if you wanted to do that. Or honestly, I think if you just had them separate anyways, we'd probably know hopefully we know somewhat after the public hearing which of these are controversial, if any. But if they're not
we never do.
controversial, then it should only take a couple minutes to really do the vote, hopefully. But yeah, I'm just thinking like I think if people are, especially if people are worried about data centers or assembly halls, but not like the home occupation or whatever, like I think the people who would have issues with them are different for these different things. And to me, it makes more sense to separate them, but
I would think I would like to do the data center as a separate article, just because it
Mhm.
may be controversial.
Yeah,
These ones here I didn't think would really be controversial. So that's why I lumped them together, but of course, yeah, we can revisit that at the public hearing and decide if they should be separated out.
Funny because we never know till town meeting floor, and it's always the one we think is a slim dunk causes the most heartache. So you never know. But I do think these do seem to go together. And I do
Yeah.
think like the home office ones, I can't see anyone questioning those.
I guess it's like, to me, obviously those should all be put together like where they are, with each other. But and I think the assembly hall and the cultural use ones would go together. I actually, are you, so the one at the bottom, are we adding the with or without drive-through window? Is that,
Yeah, the reason why I highlighted it is because it's a new suggestion that we haven't discussed before. And the reason for that is for the second time in the last 6 months, um, a engineer has called me up because they are representing a bank that is interested in going into a particular location, and they weren't clear about the drive-up window. So our zoning bylaw does address the drive-up drive-through, I mean, the drive-up ATM or, a walk-up ATM, but it's moot on the window issue. So many of the banks in town do have drive-up windows. So I just thought we could address this because Bob doesn't really know how to deal with it. So when we were discussing it, he's like, I think maybe they'll have to go to the ZBA for a variance because it doesn't say that they could have a drive-up window. So because it doesn't mention it, I'd say it's prohibited. But drive-up windows is such a common thing for banks. And since they're allowed all over town, and we do allow drive-up ATMs by special permit, why wouldn't we allow the drive-up window?
I just think, well, because I mean, I think otherwise it'd be a special permit, and I know like drive-throughs have been pretty contentious in the past few years in town, so I definitely think that should be at least separated out as its own article. And yeah, maybe not, maybe do a special permit for it as well. But
Yeah, I think the only
yeah,
one I
because
see on this list would be conference center. The hotel motel conference center and business east. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard anyone saying they're going to go against it, but I know business east really doesn't like a lot of heavy uses.
yeah,
So I don't know if that one should be separated out, but I don't know. It's all a guess.
yeah. Personally, I think we should have, I think each of the separate like categories of uses, I would say keep them separate. Um, I know that means we have more articles, but I don't know if a consent agenda is possible with something like this, but to me, it makes more sense to have them vote on them individually instead of trying to lump them all together when I mean, they're not really related to each other.
yeah, I think I understand that point. I think there are a couple that would be contentious, where others might be just like, yeah, sure, we'll go with that. And then the whole thing got shot down because, um, it just doesn't fly.
Throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yep.
And I think it will slow down town meeting more if we try to do amendments, instead of just voting on each one.
Yep. I think the drive-through could be a sticky one. And I agree with the hospitality, hotel, motel.
Just so you know, autumn, ATM machine is allowed by right, whether it's a drive up or a, walk up. So it's allowed by right in all of the districts except for Business South is special permit. And in downtown business, so there is a note. It says in the downtown business and downtown east and business east district, an ATM shall be located inside a building with other permitted uses or mounted on an exterior wall of the bank for walk-up or drive-through service. A freestanding or kiosk-style ATM or an ATM mounted on an exterior wall of a building for drive-through service is permitted only in the Business West, Business South. So it's Business West by right, Business South by special permit, or Highway Business District by right.
Right. So we're not changing that part of it.
Correct. So that is a separate item in the use table. The ATM. I just thought you'd be interested in knowing where a drive-through window is allowed versus where a drive-through ATM is allowed.
So there's different places. I guess I have to open the book to the page. So you're saying that the drive-through ATM is not allowed. It's special permit by a lot of places, but the window will be allowed almost everywhere but Business South?
So the only place that the special permit is required for drive-through ATM is Business South. So it's allowed by right in Business West and Highway Business.
And that's a drive-through ATM, but not drive-through window.
No, actually, here. It says in the downtown business and ATM. Or mounted on
What
exterior
page are you on?
or drive-through service. So you can do drive-through ATM in all of the other districts.
So this matches.
Yeah.
Except, the business district. I mean, sorry, the industrial
Yes.
district.
Right. Can you?
What is that under? I'm just looking. Oh, under business uses.
Yeah. So there should be would it be helpful if I just add to this table the ATM?
Yes.
Just so that it will be shown for town meeting as well as for the public hearing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd also say, I mean, could you add it like ATM or drive-through window? Only because if in the future someone wanted to change those, they'd probably change those together rather than changing bank.
I could do that if you think that that would be easier. Instead of putting it with bank, I could put it with the ATM.
I just think those are kind of more of the same thing. So
The only
What do the
thing
rest
is
of
the
you think?
ATM has a little footnote that says it shall be located inside of the building,
Right.
which you can't do for the drive-through window.
In certain districts, yeah. 741, let's see.
Well, why don't I just do it for public hearing and then we can decide after that.
Yeah. It's our first time seeing it, so we can go home and look at it and then come back next meeting for input. Do we have any applications for our next meeting?
Not the next meeting, but for the second meeting in February, we have 1 Lyman Street coming back.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay. And then maybe you can ask about what Carter asked about the consent article.
I will.
Thank you. Lori can explain the next one.
So that is exactly the same as you folks approved in October. The only difference is I deleted the definition for for assembly hall, because we're proposing to just add it to the definitions section. So you'll see that it's still included as a use here.
Mhm.
And so we're doing assembly hall by right, even though I think in Business East it's special permit.
That was what was decided in October. If you want to change that, that's fine.
We
I
should
think
match
at
it.
that time,
But I think it's because what,
the overlay is already a special permit.
yeah. I wonder though, I think it makes sense, maybe, I know it's not gonna make a difference because the whole thing has a special permit. But I wonder if we add it by special permit, just like Carter said, so it's not
Well,
confusing.
I'm not recommending changing that. I personally don't,
No.
but I think it's fine. I just want to make sure that was. I'd recommend changing the Business East one, but I know the rest of you disagreed.
This overlay is only for, like, it's on a couple parcels, so. I guess I'm fine if we leave it. Some people may question it, like. Does anybody else have any questions? Next one, I just made a little note on the fencing and hedges because there was an email from Susie. And she mentioned to separate out the fences from the hedges, and it looks like that's what kind of happened in this definition anyways.
Yeah, so I did modify things around based on the discussion from the last meeting. I did talk to Bob. Bob asked me to take out freestanding wall because it's already under the building code and there's already a whole bunch of requirements for it. So he didn't want to muddy the water. So I took out freestanding wall, and so now it mostly just talks about fences. And then there's just the requirement about the last paragraph is where it talks about hedges in the front setback and then on a corner lot.
I put my little note in red there because there is a corner lot on Davis Street and it has a fence with hedges behind it, and the hedges are like tall because it's in their front yard, and every year it gets wiped out. And it already got wiped out this year. And the only thing that holds the car from hitting the house are those hedges. So, but when you read this, I think it gives some, where the opinion of the building inspector.
Yeah,
Um,
so if the building inspector, like say the hedge is 6 feet and maybe it's
Mhm.
15 feet back. If he doesn't think that it's going to interfere with sight distance, so then he can just say, oh, it's fine. So it's
Okay.
only really if there's a problem, then he can use this as leverage to deal with the problem.
Okay. Yeah, this is like a notorious house that gets hit every ice storm. Not doesn't get hit, but the bushes do after the fence gets destroyed every year. But I wouldn't want them to have to take down their bushes or they'll be in trouble.
Would just with the opinion of the building inspector, would you want that to be like a written opinion? Just to so like, you don't say, oh well, the building inspector said it's fine, and then a year later someone just some issue or something.
Well, generally, he responds to complaints in writing.
Okay.
So the complaint has to be put in writing, otherwise he won't investigate it.
Mhm.
And then he provides them with a response in writing. So if a neighbor complains, he goes out there, he doesn't think it's a problem, then he could just send him a letter saying he inspected it and he's fine with it, or not.
I'm just like, if somebody complains after like a new building inspector comes in, if I don't want someone saying, oh well, the previous one said it was fine, and then having like a disagreement there.
Well, they are grandfathered. So if the homeowner just kept a copy of the letter and said, hey, this is what the other building inspector said, then I would think that the new building inspector would respect that. Unless there was some sort of like major car accident or something.
Yeah.
The next one isn't on our list. I looked into it because we were talking about open space, and this has always um come to mind. Like there have been some industrial applications where they cover the whole lot with the building, the parking lot, the driveway. I'm like, how are they doing that? We're supposed to have 25% open space. So there was a recent applicant where I was thinking the same thing. So I went back and looked at it, and it's because our lot coverage definition, when you have a lot coverage, many towns, it's just the building and structures. And in 2000 and, oh no, I don't know if this was one of them, but I think it was in 2008 to 2009. So lot coverage does not include driveways and walkways. So that means even though your lot coverage is 50%, you can have more impervious because now your driveway isn't covered. And also the same thing with open space. I went to look for the open space, which I mentioned there isn't one at the beginning, but there was one towards the end of the book. And after the 2008 changes, they said that open space includes the driveway.
Hmm.
So even if we in industrial say, you have to do 25% open space, if there's a long driveway, they can say, okay, well, there's our open space. And then and that's how we're getting these lots that are covered with pavement. And I looked into a lot of other towns. I looked at Westboro, which I always do, and Medway, and I looked at Millbury, and they don't have that. Like their lot coverage does not include the driveways, and their open space does not include the driveways. So I didn't
Well,
know if that was
lot
something.
lot coverage is generally structures. I think what you're talking about is impervious lot coverage. So a lot of communities have an impervious lot coverage requirement, which
Mhm.
includes all, so that would include parking lots, driveways, roadways, patios, as long as they were impervious, structures. So we could either just adopt a definition for impervious lot coverage, but then we'd have to include that in a variety of locations, or just modify the definition or the requirements for open space to just say that it can't include driveways. I think that'd probably be the simplest way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought I was crossing off, except for a driveway. Like, I feel that open space should be open space. It should be green space, and it says to keep in its natural space, habitat, but if it's covered with a driveway, it's not really, in my opinion, open space. I don't know if it's
Well,
something we can.
I mean, just one thing I'm noticing with like paved walkways. Like I know, well, like at I know sometimes you have like a little trail that you want to make accessible for people with disabilities. So you have like a paved walkway. I know like up at Tower Hill, we had like we paved some of the walkways so that you can put strollers and wheelchairs through some of the wooded areas. I mean, I'm not sure how much that really changes the coverage of it, but I mean, I know that is something where it is like a open space thing, and I don't know if that's something that town is interested in having if there was some kind of recreational trail in some of these open space areas that's paved.
Yeah, I think it would
This is
be
just,
good to include walkways within the open space. So like even think about the dog park. Um, we have walkways from the parking lot to the dog park. Within the open space area, it's still open space. And
but would you
the
have
same with most
it be
recreational
impervious?
resources. Huh?
Would it be impervious?
The walkway that we have to the dog park is, yes.
Is
Do
this
you think those walkways should be included as the 25% open space? Like, our open space is already low as it is. Like, our industrial open space says 25%. And I looked at other towns and they're at 40%. So if we're only at 25% open space and now we're allowing the walkways and the driveways, then
I agree with you. The driveways should definitely be taken out. The walkways, usually you want walkways to your open space amenities, so, it's up to you folks. I just am playing devil's advocate on that one.
but wouldn't it still count? Like, you still could do it, right? You could still do a walkway. It just wouldn't count as, I don't know what you're looking at, the lot coverage or the open space.
I was just following up on Carter's comment.
Oh, so that would be lot coverage. So we have a lot coverage of 50%. And the lot coverage includes the driveway. It doesn't include the driveway.
and is this in any zone?
Rural zones, but every zone I think does have a lot coverage. So
Yeah.
um industrial lot coverage is 50%. There is no maximum lot coverage for downtown business, business east, business west. So it's not in those areas.
I wonder, I mean, maybe I don't know if there's like a small percentage that you limit, like open space can only be 5% impervious surfaces of, or it could even be less. I don't know what the right number for that would be, but just because I mean, I guess like, because yeah, on like a unlike because the open space that includes like somebody's front yard that might have like, you know, little stones leading up to their front door, and then it's kind of like, are we calculating that as
Yeah.
walkways and
I
things?
don't know
I
about
think
the walkways. Yeah.
it
We don't
becomes
count
tricky.
it, because when we did a duplex, it had this crushed stones because they were
Pervious.
pervious. It didn't count. So you're saying not include walkways here? So what coverage should not include? Are you on
Well,
lot coverage or open space?
lot coverage shouldn't include those things anyway, because lot coverage is typically just the footprints of structures. So, if you wanted to reference impervious lot coverage, then those things would be included.
Yeah, so it's just the open space that you're getting rid of the driveway.
I wouldn't touch the definition for lot coverage. I would change the
Open space.
calculation of open space.
So you would leave the driveway as not being included in lot coverage?
Right, because lot coverage typically, when you're talking from town to town to town to town, lot coverage is structures.
Mhm.
It does not include driveways, walkways, etc. But those things are typically included in definitions of impervious lot coverage, but they're two completely different things. So if you're just talking about lot coverage, you're only talking about footprint of buildings and structures. If you're talking about impervious lot coverage, you would include those things.
Okay,
So
just because I was comparing to other,
striking those out would mean, like, including those in the definitions would mean that you're no longer talking about lot coverage. Now you're talking about impervious lot coverage. It's like comparing apples and oranges.
okay. I just remember when we did Bartlett Street, the parking lot, like, was most of the site. And it's like, well, how, and they were like, oh, because it's not counted as lot coverage.
So we would have to
So lot
change our dimensional table if we're gonna get away from looking at calculations for lot coverage and looking at impervious lot coverage.
all I was trying to do was make sure there's a little open space in industrial areas and it's not fully paved.
Yeah, and I think the way to do that is down below where you're talking about open space. And you're talking about the encroachment, like you did there, delete except for a driveway to gain access from the street.
So
So
if the
get
open
rid of
spaces,
parking, storage areas, and interior drives from the open space area.
To your point, Amy, would it be helpful to have a definition of what we're going to refer to as open space?
it would be like, but it would be, and I think it should be in the beginning of the bylaw. Because we do have standards that apply to open space. And this is what I was using as a definition. Open space is free of.
And we have that in the
No, it's not in the. So maybe we should do that, include a definition of open space at the beginning.
yeah. We have impervious, we have other things, but I don't see.
So I think it should say open space shall be kept free of encroachment by buildings, structures, storage areas, parking, and interior drives. And then cross out except for driveway to gain access. Is that what you're saying, Lori? I don't know why I'm
That
getting
is.
confused.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. The way you wrote it, I agree with you.
Okay. But we haven't, but lot coverage, you think we should
Leave
not
that
take
alone.
these out?
Yep.
Yeah. I looked at other towns, they didn't include parking in their lot coverage. I mean, they did.
So I think that's because they're defining it as an impervious lot coverage.
And that's under the different criteria of
I'll have to check it out.
building.
I only
Is-
looked
is-
at Westboro, Medway, and maybe Millbury. But yeah. It's
Yep.
always been a question of
I
mine,
mean,
is
it's
like,
sort of self-defining. If lot coverage is defined by the building or accessory primary structure, then parking doesn't really fall under that.
okay, but then an open space that you can't have a driveway. And then I didn't know if we had to have a definition for valet, because when I was in the definitions, looking around for open space and lot coverage, and we were changing valet, do we need a definition or we don't? It's not a big deal to me, but I noticed
I
it
think
doesn't matter.
it's helpful. I mean, if it clarifies things for people.
And like I said, I only added it because we had valet at the top. We were
Right.
changing. But I don't know where we would put that at the beginning too. In the book, because we have commercial parking lots where I think you have to pay. But this is parking valet. And actually the town that had this was Medway, and they had like 6 different parking things. They had shared parking, valet parking, commercial parking. But I didn't want to get overwhelming. I just included the valet because we were talking about it above.
So we don't have anything about shared parking in our options.
I don't know if we do. I don't think we have a definition.
Hmm.
I think Lori's looking.
Worth
I don't
looking
see a
into.
definition anywhere.
Shared parking might be worth looking into.
Yeah, I have it. I can add it and just send it to Lori, and then we can decide at the next meeting if people want to add the 2 or they don't want to add the 2.
I mean, I think it gives more ideas about what creative
Mm,
parking options we can pursue.
right.
In this case, because valet parking
Okay.
isn't a
So
use, I'd probably add it to the front definitions.
okay. And I'll send you shared
Hmm.
parking too. I can show you all their parking. There were like 5
Yeah,
different
I'd be interested to
parkings.
see what that is.
I should have left it here, but I'm like, oh, I'm throwing in too much at the end. Then 24th hour or 19th hour, whatever they call it. And I'm gonna stop sharing. I think, oh, did we have changes to were there any changes, Lori, to the donation bin?
Yeah, just a
I didn't
couple.
look at that one.
I've got it up.
Okay.
Hold on. Nope, that's not it. Here it is. All right. So I added but not remove. We talked about that last time. I added calling out the various districts where they are allowed. Then clarification that they may be allowed in residential and the downtown business districts on property dedicated to educational and or religious purposes. Under 5, specified on lots with vacant buildings. We talked about that last time. This is another thing we talked about last time, adding address and contact telephone number of the charity organization. Then 1 bin allowed per regular property. I think this might have been your suggestion, Amy. And then if it's for educational or religious purposes, they'd be allowed up to 2 bins. And then the waiver for educational or religious purposes from the fees. And
Board of
that's it.
Selectmen will pick the fees, or Bob, it's gonna go through the building department.
Correct. So it would be added onto his list of fees.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
I'm just wondering if up on the part about the district exemptions, would it make sense to say like they're allowed in any district? Just instead of specifying, only to make it obvious that they're allowed, but also just in case we change districts at some point in the future, we don't have to. The intent was to allow it anywhere.
But they're not allowed in residential or downtown.
Well, if they're on I think what he's saying is that if they're on a property dedicated to educational or religious purposes, they can be placed in any district. Is that what you're saying, Carter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was looking at number 1.
Are you folks okay with that?
Wait, what was that? Sorry, I'm just trying to catch that.
So his suggestion is to change bullet 2. So it would say donation collection bins may be allowed in any zoning district on property dedicated to educational and or religious purposes.
Yep, that makes sense.
Sure.
Okay. All right. As long as they're maybe, yeah.
Okay. So the next time you see these bylaws, they're
Huh.
going to have no track changes. They're going to be clean and they're going to be inputted into a single document. Just to be clear.
I had one more I wanted to share because it was and maybe we don't go forward with it this year, but I had talked about it last year and I talked about it a couple times this year, but I've been waiting for Bob's input and he hasn't given any input. So I met with Stephanie and Lori and Julianne at the beginning of the year. That's when we started talking about the donation bins. And we were also talking about storage containers. And I brought it up to the board quickly at the very beginning of our bylaw discussion. But I wanted them to go hand in hand because they both would have been under Bob. But it was just defining what a storage shipping container is. And there are some towns like Shrewsbury, and this is from Sturbridge, that have a limit on the amount of storage shipping containers can be allowed on a property. And in those towns, they consider residential districts of having these storage containers if it's like a move or cleaning out. So they had it for 30 days, downtown 60 days in the business districts. But in the industrial districts, they're allowed. Like, because they are industrial districts is where you have our shipping and receiving, and so there may be storage units on their properties for longer. So there's no permit needed in the industrial zone if that's part of their business. And then if it's considered an ADU, then it's allowed. So, and if people want to keep them longer than 12 months, then they can go for a special permit site plan, because then it's considered like something that's staying on their property. This was taken almost word for word from Sturbridge. I don't know if there were two ways I thought about going about this. It's going this route, or I could even put it in the zoning bylaws, but then the ones that are there are grandfathered. But I'm like totally not even against storage containers on certain businesses as long as they're screened from view. So I was trying to figure out the best way to go about this.
Yeah.
And,
Honestly, I haven't had time to really think about this one. And
I
right
know, it's just so
now,
disappointing in a way, because I brought it
I
up like
know
last April.
you've had it for a long time. I'm hoping that maybe we can back burner this one until the spring, the fall. I've got the B-Wall grant application due on February 2nd, so I'm just not gonna have time to get it. Unless you just want to go, even though I haven't had time to look at it, that's fine. You guys can just go forward yourselves.
Oh, wait, but the only concern I have is like they're just more and more and more being dropped by the days. And
Yeah.
But I guess if this goes through under a general bylaw, then the ones that are there now aren't grandfathered, but
Right.
it just would have been easier to go with the donation bin because they were very similar. But I don't know. Actually, I'd sent you a email, Lori, this morning, and I'll follow up on it with you and Bob. Because there is a section in our bylaw that says like, I'll pull it up. But it says that things like dumpsters and utility sheds do have to be screened by view. So maybe these already fall under that.
Well, remember
But my question for you,
our site
Yep.
development requirements are triggered when site plan review is triggered. So otherwise they
right?
don't apply.
Right. So
That was my
that wouldn't
question.
apply to us, so.
And with that though, like, what would stop someone from like, now we tell them they have to have screening around dumpsters and other utility areas. So say the builder doesn't put on a dumpster now when they go for site plan, but they say like 2 months down the road, well, I'm gonna do all this stuff. Or they say even like, I want to do this stuff, but I don't want to go in front of the planning board. So I'm gonna wait till I get my approval and then I'll drop it off after the fact. And
Well,
maybe that's not a question for tonight.
yeah, generally that's a question when we're going through site plan review and I'm doing my comment letter. If I see that they haven't provided for dumpsters, then I ask them to provide for the dumpster. and provide the screening. So if you can think about it, the applicant we had before design review committee last week, he was showing the dumpster in the loading dock location. And of course, I'm like, well, what if they want to use the loading dock for loading? Then where are you going to put the dumpster? And so they're going to be revising the plan to show an alternative dumpster location. So that's, I think, the conversation that you have during site plan review. So if they're not providing for it, they have to, yeah. You can't say that you're not going to have a dumpster because you're going to need a dumpster if you're a business or an industrial use or even a garden style apartment complex. I mean, come on, let's be real. You
Well, I
need a
think the
dumpster.
whole, it says no exposed storage areas, machinery, garbage dumpsters, service areas, truck loading, utility buildings and structures. Unless they're screened from view, but we never thought of the storage containers, but they're pretty much now Bob's calling them a structure. So I guess when we do our site plan review with new ones coming up, you could say, well, if you're gonna drop anything, if you're gonna drop a dumpster or a trailer or a storage container, like anything, should be screened from view if it's going to impact the street view or you're a butter.
Can we add to
But it's
that?
hard to catch all that.
We can start adding a standard condition. So whenever anybody
Hmm.
comes for site plan approval, we can just put it in there as a maybe for the future.
Can we add to that
Right.
dumpster also things that are less structural, but like a bagster? Because I definitely see those popping up in people's front yards. And they leave them there forever. And it looks like you have a junkyard in front of your house. But they don't care because they're not looking at it.
They also,
The
single
junkyard,
family homes are also exempt from site plan review.
but junkyards are prohibited, so if something starts turning it into a junkyard, could always probably write a note to Bob
Hmm.
to look into it. Okay, so with this container bylaw, I guess we're gonna wait. It just stinks because I emailed it a whole bunch of times. Even before we started the open space bylaw.
Yeah, I just
But
feel like we haven't brought it up until now.
right, I brought it up a couple times. I emailed Bob a couple times. He just doesn't really respond to it. So
Right, but as far
I
as the
think
discussion for us, I know it's been on the radar for a long time, but this is kind of the first time well, maybe the second time it's come up in the last 3 months.
yeah, I think I brought it up once and then I never heard back. So then
From
I just
Bob
was
or from
waiting
us?
and I get
Yeah,
for waiting for Bob. So I think maybe if Bob doesn't reply, it will have to be kind of like
go
how
forward.
if we don't hear from the police department, if he has no comment, then we can go forward. So in the future, I can
So
just
we
do
can assume that it's
it that way.
not problematical.
Okay. So next on the agenda is the support letter for the Mass Trails Grant. Lori, do you mind sharing it? I don't think I have the latest. I actually
Yep.
sent something to Lori. And of course, I don't have it because I have so many other things that I was sharing tonight.
Yeah, so Amy had sent me a comment with a suggested change, and I I'm suggesting maybe moving it down a little bit. So you're talking more in generalities first and then the specifics in the last sentence.
My comment was just to point out a specific, because I thought it might help with the grant if they saw how this would actually impact our town and the MBTA community, connecting it to Walmart and the MBTA.
I thought that was a good suggestion. I just expanded a little bit to talk about Avalon.
Yeah, I like how you reworded it, because I just typed it up super quickly.
I had a couple questions on that letter, but now I can't find what my comments were.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Let me see if I can find what my comments were. Paper. No, I think you talked about, let me just read this real quick.
Mhm.
What? Okay, yeah, I think it looks good.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? Hearing none. We don't have to take a vote on it, Lori, do you? Do we? I mean,
Yeah,
well,
if
we
you
could.
would. If you would, that'd be great. So then I could say it was
Okay.
unanimous.
Do I have a motion to support the letter from the Mass Trails BWALT grant?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Bill Pierce,
Aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
Aye.
Carter Brannon.
Aye.
Okay, next on the agenda are the minutes of the January 6th meeting. Carter had some changes and I had some changes. And I think they're just merged together.
I know I saw there was changes sent out just like shortly before the meeting.
Mhm.
There's only one part of those new changes. It's where it says that I was responding to comments from the last meeting. I wanted to change it to a previous meeting because it was actually 2 meetings before.
Oh, okay. So I have it up here. I think, oh, in response to statements you wanted me to change at the,
At the last 2 at a previous meeting because it was actually
Okay.
from 2 meetings prior.
Okay. Lori, do you want me to send these to you or you have it? It's just a small change.
If you could just email it to me, that'd be great.
Sure.
Um,
Okay. Does anybody else have any changes to the minutes?
And I
Hearing
also
none, do I have a
so
motion? Oh, sorry.
so I also just wanted to just I know I made a lot of changes to add possibly more detail than is strictly necessary, but I just had noticed that the initial draft it said in parts where it was just like the board debated, and I felt like just anyone who was trying to figure out why the board made, if 10 years from now when we're looking at the same bylaw and trying to figure out why we all were made one decision or another, just to like at least show in it like, all right, this is what people were saying in support of this way, this is what people were saying against this way, just so there's a little bit of detail explaining, the rationale for why we were leaning one way or another.
No, I think that's great. Do you think, Lori, it would be hard for Abby to add in the future a little more of the debate instead of saying the board debated?
Yeah, I think it's always a challenge because a lot of it is, well, of course, it's not supposed to be a transcript. You know, if
Yeah.
folks want to watch the meeting, they should just watch the meeting. So it's supposed to be a summary and kind of the what was what happened at the end? What was the decision? What are the next steps?
Yeah.
So that's generally the guidance that we have that we've been provided
Yep.
for the purpose of minutes. I can certainly ask Abby to provide more detail. I know some of the boards and committees I work with don't like the detail because then they say nobody's going to read the minutes if they're novel. So it's a challenge to figure out the right balance for each board and committee. But I complimented Abby on her minutes. So
Yeah.
from my perspective, I thought her first draft was perfection. But of course, this is your board's minutes, not mine. So I will tell her to add a bit more.
I like
Yeah.
what Carter added because I do go back and read the minutes. I don't like to go back and watch the video, so I love to be able to figure out what happened. Like I go back and read 2008 when they were making decisions on how they got to the 2009 bylaws. And if it just said they discussed this, you don't even know what they were discussing. And there was no video back then, but our videos are so long. It's great to
Yeah.
have just a little more detail on the minutes.
Yeah, with the like OSRD bylaw, I was like looking back at some of the old minutes of the discussions that they were having then, and I thought some of them were quite insightful details that were
Hmm.
included that I'm not sure, you know, and again, I don't think there's recordings of those meetings, so yeah, I think it's helpful to have more detail, but I'll admit I think I put more detail than was necessary. But yeah, I think there's probably a balance that's appropriate.
Okay. All right, so next on the agenda is subcommittee updates. I just want to throw out mine. We're gonna do a site walk tomorrow, Lori. Did Abby tell you tomorrow at 10?
No.
Where's that
No,
for?
I've
You-
been at meetings all day today, so I'm sorry.
Oh, it was
I
from
haven't.
the last design review meeting. They're doing a new warehouse on Barefoot Road. And the applicant actually said, I have this iPad that shows the site plan. And if we walk the site, it actually shows
Oh,
you on the site plan where you are. And he's like, you want to do a site walk? So we said, sure. So tomorrow at 10, we're gonna do a site walk of the Barefoot Road
Excuse me,
site.
okay.
Amy.
And then there'll probably be
Did we
huh?
actually vote on those minutes? I don't think we
I don't
actually
think you
voted on the
did.
minutes.
And
Oh, sorry.
Good point.
Amy, I did
Sorry.
already go on a site walk with him, Quentin.
Okay.
So
Yep.
I'm gonna skip out on that and concentrate on my BWALT grant. But do you
Sure.
want me to send Abby with you?
I know Abby
I'm
said
sure
she
she'd be
wanted to do
interested.
it because we were gonna do it Monday. And it was Martin Luther King Day, and she's like, "Oh, if you do it Wednesday, I'll go."
Good. Yeah, because I have been encouraging her to do site visits when it's something of interest to her. So I
Mhm.
will send her along with you.
Okay. Yep. Tomorrow at 10. And okay, I'll make a motion. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 6th, 2026 minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
I always let Abby figure out who's second. Roll call vote, Bill Pierce,
Aye.
um, Carter Brannon,
aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
Billy Milton,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Those are approved. Does anybody have any subcommittee updates?
I just have a couple quick ones with the CPC. The grants or requests that were in front of us were historical windows for the Historic Society. And it looks like they're coming back with a couple of different estimates that will hopefully save some money. And it looks like the downtown beautification Blake Street is also going to be coming back with some options to save some money possibly. And the Melican Middle School, the softball and baseball fields is coming back with more, I think, grants or proposals to also save money. So we'll see.
Oh, interesting. That's great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
There was a meeting with the CMRPC tonight, so I'll have to check it out after.
Thanks.
Yeah, traffic safety, from citizen requests, we actually made a request to the select board to reduce 2 speed limits, one for the entire street of Crawford Street to 25 miles an hour, and one for the down near Colby Street to the center of town on Church, to bring that down to 25 miles an hour. Anyone may know, there's a telephone pole there that keeps getting hit because, every 3 to 5 years they're replacing the pole. So we're hoping reducing the speed limit. Plus, it's what actually happens on Whitney Street. Whitney Street goes down to 25 before it gets to Church.
Yeah.
So it's sort of anything that feeds into downtown, trying to help slow people down before they actually get to downtown area.
I think it gets hit on the way out of downtown though.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they're gunning it.
So yeah, and it's usually, it's a hard turn anyways, especially if you're not paying attention. So
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Design review met last week, and we are going to do a site walk tomorrow. It's 20 Barefoot Road. There's now a 10 and a 30, so this is a new building going in between the two of them. And he came pretty well prepared with all his application materials. So we're going to meet next week, Lori. I don't know if you had time, if Abby told you. We were going to meet next Thursday to finalize it with him because he does want to come forth to planning board.
Okay.
I can touch base with you after, but it's not this Thursday, but next Thursday we said we would meet again.
We'll add it to my
And we're
agenda.
still working on design review guidelines. We're down to the last section, but every time we're ready to do it, we have another application. So we always bump it. And that's all I have. So the next planning board meeting is February 3rd and February 17th. Sounds like we have no applications on February 3rd.
And I will not be in.
You won't be in town. Should we meet? Was there anything we had to finish up or just wait till the public hearing to discuss bylaws again?
I don't think we have to meet. I don't have anything except bylaw stuff.
Okay. How about anybody else? I know it would be great for me if we didn't meet.
And I won't be in, like I said.
I'm fine.
I'm fine with that.
So is everybody okay with meeting next on February 17th?
Sounds good.
Yep.
Something, I know I watched a little bit of the selectmen meeting. I think it was this week or it was yesterday, or maybe last week. I know they had been talking about doing like some in-person information session ahead of town meeting for some of the articles. I'm not sure. I know they had mentioned they wanted the zoning articles in there. I think I'm not sure it really makes sense how we're doing, for how that works, but I don't know exactly what their plan was. But my question was, I was wondering if either a public hearing or another meeting, if we wanted to do a hybrid or in-person meeting, for people to ask questions about the proposed zoning amendments if we think an in-person meeting might be more appropriate than a virtual one.
Saying you'd rather do a public hearing in person?
I personally think more people can attend.
All right, through Zoom.
I mean, I do if there's a hybrid option, but I don't know. I'm just thinking sometimes an in-person meeting just to when it's a lot of public asking questions might make more sense. But
Well, the select board does all their meetings hybrid, right? So there is a Zoom link as well as being in person.
Mhm.
So
I know I like being on Zoom. Would the chair have to go in person?
probably recommended.
So that's well, we could talk about it at we have a February 17th meeting. A lot of times we leave the public hearing open for 2. We can talk about it on the 17th and see if people want to do a hybrid meeting.
Mhm. Hmm.
We never really get anyone to attend our public hearing. We get maybe 2 or 3. And before I even joined the planning board, I used to be the only one in the audience. I think people seem to come to town meeting, but not really our public hearing.
We used
well,
to
I'm
get
only
a few
because I
more.
know that the selectmen were trying to do some pre-town meeting thing, and I wasn't sure if I personally felt like it, I was kind of just I don't know exactly what they were proposing, but when I was thinking of like how the zoning articles would work, it would be like, well, why wouldn't we just ask them to come to the public hearing instead of having a whole separate meeting of just like informative? But so
I
I was
could
kind of
reach out. I'll reach out to the chair of the select board and see what they're doing.
Amy,
Or-
I don't know if you recall, but every year, it's usually after a public hearing, the
Mhm.
the chair of the planning board and I make a presentation to the select board on the zoning articles. So last year you did it with me, Amy.
Yeah.
But prior to that, it was always Carrie and I would go, and
Mhm.
we'd kind of switch off on who gave the presentation. So that might be what they're talking about. And so it would be us going to their meeting.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, because they've never come to our meeting. So, all right, we'll find out more about that. And then Lori can always send out an email. But it makes sense what Lori just said, because that's what happens every year. And then Lori gets to make videos, right?
Mhm.
Don't you make videos for town meeting?
I do. I do a PowerPoint presentation and then I send it to you guys and you make your modifications. And so,
But weren't there
yeah.
some online videos? I know the select board had
Oh,
to do them. I thought
yes.
you had to.
Yeah, so last year, I think the year before that too, the town
Yep.
administrator and I would sit together and we would go through all the zoning articles, very exciting. And I tried to explain them. So it would pretty much be the same presentation that I do for the public hearing. Um, and then ultimately change things around a little bit. You guys usually make some adjustments to the slides for town meeting.
Okay. All right. So sounds like we're gonna skip the February 3rd meeting. And for now, I'm leaning towards staying on Zoom for February 17th because I think Lori's right. I think what they were talking about was when we go and meet with the select board. But I will reach out to her and see if it's something new. that we should know about. So the next CBA meeting's February 24th, MPIC February 19th. Does anybody else have anything to add?
No,
Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Bill Pierce,
Aye.
Carter Brennan,
Aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. We'll see you on the 17th.